Hey there, Commercial Construction Coffee Talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David, of course, and I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation magazine. We're digital now, but this is what it used to look like. I'm breaking out the archives. November, December 2006. Tony Poma, Director of Construction for the Coffee Bean. Tony, if you're out there, it seems like yesterday you were on the cover, you know. But anyway, let's this magazine, let's see, how big was it? It was 182 pages. Woohoo! And this was actually my Retail Construction West. Oh my God, look at this picture of me. I've got brown hair, you know, a lot of it, and I think that's somewhere in San Diego. I don't know where I was when I took that picture, but no, it was down there in SoCal, because this was the Retail Construction West coverage issue when we had the show back in the day. But anyway, it's always good to hold the magazine. I don't print it anymore, but we haven't printed the magazine since August of 2021, when we had White Castle, VP of Construction. That was our last printed issue, and now we're in the digital game. So don't miss the post office, don't miss the printer or any of that stuff. So but anyway, hope everybody's having a great week. You know, getting back to work from the Memorial Day weekend. Beautiful here in Atlanta, in the 80s, no humidity. It's gonna be sunny all week. Just put the boat in the water. You know, it's a lot of fun, but the humidity's coming. I'm just waiting for it, because like sometime in the middle of June, all of a sudden God just flicks the switch and boom, it hits you like, and it's, you know, June, July, August, very hot in the South. And but then some Indian summer, September, October. Oh, it's beautiful here because the humidity kind of dissipates and you got the fall colors. So got to deal with a little heat, you know, in the summer. But right now it's just beautiful here in the South, you know. So and the ATL is the LA of the South, as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, I've got my Vegas Knights shirt on. Actually, they were in the NHL Stanley Cup in 2018. They didn't win. But the playoffs start tomorrow night. They're playing, I think, Florida. I think the NBA Finals start tonight, tomorrow night too, as well. So whoever you're rooting for, it's either the Florida Panthers or the Vegas Knights going to raise the cup. Only one person gets to raise it, and they get all their names on it. And for the NBA Finals, it's the Heat against the Denver Nuggets. And the Nuggets have never won the NBA championship. So go Nuggets. I went to DU, and I remember the day of Alex English and 𝐃𝐒𝐉𝐎𝐘, and you know, we used to love the Nuggets, and so good luck to all those teams who made the best team win. So with that said, got a very special guest today. He's out in Colorado Springs. His name is Mr. Dan Belling. He's national accounts for S-5, which is actually they manufacture snow retention systems for roofs and so forth. So snow and ice doesn't fall on you when you're going into the facility. So we don't want any of that stuff happening to you. But it's a really cool product. And actually, we featured them. They did a project at Pikes Peak. They had their retention systems on the Welcome Center at the top of Pikes Peak, you know, at the center. Anyway, it's a great ride up there. If you've never seen it, they do the Pikes Peaks road rally all the way from the bottom to the top of the mountain. And it's a really cool thing. And that was the thing when I was out in Denver. Everybody had to go and hike the mountain. And but up at the top there, they did. We honored them as one of the projects in our March issue for our 2023 Project Profile Award. So thanks to S-5 for sending that in. But Mr. Belling, I've known forever. You know, we're all both only 26. But Dan, say hello from Colorado Springs.
Hello from Colorado Springs and the corporate campus of S-5.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, long time no here. And, you know, Dan's, you know, he's, you know, I just had Nick Harborough, who he's called the Retail Nomad. I just had him on my podcast. And so, but Dan's kind of a nomad of himself, you know, because he's been around, you know, forever here. And he's seen a lot of things and been in, you know, different sides of the, you know, the equation. But all in all, I thought Dan would be a great guest. He just sent me an email and I saw S-5 on there. I was like, hey, are you with them? I know Rob, I know Jessica, I know Fiona, and all, you know, and all that. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool company. I like their product and stuff. And No better time than the present to think about snow than when you're going into summer. Because if you're going to put any of those attachments on to make your facility safe and make your customers safe when they're walking in and so forth, you got to get it done before it happens. It's kind of like it's kind of like an insurance policy. You may not ever use it, but it's there and it's preventive. So Dan, the way that we do this, I do it in 3 spots, 3 sections. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, how many kids, grandkids. I know you got some horses out there in Sea Springs, and how you ended up at S-5. I know it's an interesting story. And then we'll talk about lessons learned from the last 3 years. And then you'll leave one positive thought or phrase for our listeners out there and your contact info. So with that said, Dan, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Well, first of all, thank you for having dyslexia and saying that I'm 26. That was great. Love that.
Hey, I'm 26. I'm always 26,
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That'd be a good number. We just got to reverse them every once in a while. So Dan Belling, I was born in East LA. So I guess I'm the original
East LA, Dan Belling, East LA.
There you go. Grew up in California, 5th generation Californian.
Wow.
And personally, I'm married. Judy and I are both 2nd rounders. So she brought to the relationship 2 kids. I brought in my 2 kids, and now we're 2/3 of the Brady Bunch.
Nice.
My kids have finally returned the favor of raising them by granting us with a couple of grandkids. So December 8th of 22, we got our first grandson, Barrett. The next one came on April Fool's. So Mavry is an April Fool's baby. And the 3rd one is actually due in 3 weeks now on Father's Day. So
congratulations.
I've seen some of the rebrand.
I've seen some of the babies in Facebook and that kind of stuff. So I've seen them out there.
Yeah, it's great. We're gonna rebrand that as Grandfather's Day instead of Father's Day.
Yeah. When was the last time before they had the kids? When was the last time you changed a diaper?
Long time. At least 20 years.
Yeah. So at least they all have them at the same time. So now you're in diapers, because once you get into diapers, it's very tough to go back, And
and I'll tell you what, I've got great kids. We raised them the right way. I don't have to do the diaper stuff.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. My son's 23. We were talking this weekend. He's like, "Oh, I'm never getting married, and blah, blah, blah." And I just said, yeah, you'll say that now, 23, but eventually you'll get the bug, and, you'll find the right person to hang with. And, you'll have kids, and it's just one of those things. I always said that I was never going to get married, but, here I am 30 years married, so, you look back and you're like, oh yeah, I told my wife, I'm like, when did I get married? In my 30s? Yeah, early 30s. And, it goes quick,
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how fast it goes. And, we're super blessed. So we got 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys. 3 of them have, again, blessed us with grandkids thus far. The 4th one, I'm not so sure about. So we'll see what her ideas of the future look like as she determines them.
Sure. So tell us your bio and your business, acumen.
Yeah, sure. So I started off working, really early, like a lot of kids, scrubbing toilets at the local Lens mobile gas station. But my first real career was after college. I went to work in the automotive segment. Spent basically 22 years working for automotive parts manufacturers. And in 1990, actually started working from a home office. And we'll get there when we start talking a little bit about this crazy last 3 years of roller coaster.
Yeah. Did you go to the SEMA show when it was?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been going to SEMA, and there's another, the SEMA show used to be it. Now there's a PRI show, or the Performance Racing Industries show. That's really where all the hardcore folks are going, because that's where all the, high performance parts are being displayed. But loved SEMA, loved all the new cars, the crazy stuff that would come out, and kind of watching that evolve over time.
In my publishing career, when I started with before I went out on my own to start my publishing company, I was with a publisher here locally, and we had 10 magazines and 8 trade shows, and we owned Global Shop. And one of the we had 2 aftermarket magazines. One was called Automotive aftermarket, and the other one was truck accessory news. But the SEMA show was like the big gig. And I started on an automotive interiors magazine. So I used to go out there and walk it too. For those of you who don't know, SEMA was like back in the day was, if you wanted anything to know about cars or what have you, you went to SEMA because you saw it all, whether it's rims, whatever you can imagine for a car, for aftermarket, that's where everybody is. And they take up the whole convention center, and it's just, you're talking a lot of people, but like everything, kind of, it goes, it's done, the valleys and the mountaintops. And, but I didn't even know that there was another show, the PRI show, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Well, and SEMA's more kind of the consumer stuff. And it's, anything that's shiny chrome or flashy paint. The last time I actually went 2 years ago, and there were all the van conversions. That's a big thing now with, turning your Sprinter van into an outdoor assault vehicle. So it's pretty cool to watch the trends and then how they develop. But anyway, I spent 20 years doing that. I found myself in a leadership role and part owner of a little company that got sold in 2006. And I reinvested some money in another company that was in retail services. It was a store setup company. That was in 2006. 2008 hit. I think we all know what happened in 2008. So that investment wasn't such a great idea.
Trying to fill up the hole. The
That's
hole
right.
get deeper. The economy's falling off the cliff, right?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was good learning experience. It certainly made you more robust and more steeled, for lack of a better term. But since that time, I've worked for, I think everybody knows, a handful of other companies that are all related to retail services. Everything from architecture and construction management through the signage industry. And now I find myself at S-5, which is a company that basically manufactures metal roofing and metal siding accessories. If you ever want to attach anything to a metal roof or metal siding, we've got the ability or the clamp system to be able to do that.
Yeah, like I said, I very familiar with S-5. I walk the roofing show every year, and actually, I just sent the PR person the listing link for our architectural building products issue that's coming up for our next issue, issue 5, that'll post hopefully by the end of next week. And it's a very cool product. People don't understand. Look, it's a snow retention, but it's got a lot of diversity, because you can hook up the solar panels and all these other attachments that you want on the roof. And you want to do it with a company that's got a solid foundation. And the owner, Rob, he's a real cowboy. He's the coolest dude I've ever met, and he could do commercials. He just looks the part, and he's the real deal. He's a real cowboy. Am I right?
Oh yeah, Rob is definitely a real cowboy. Funny story, when I moved here with a prior company to Colorado Springs. Rob Haddock was one of my neighbors. And knew him, not really well, but kind of passively. And, the aspect of him was solid cowboy. He grew up in the area. His family's got 70 years here in the Colorado Springs area. Rob has raised everything from buffalo. He had 20,000 acres out in the country near Buena Vista, Colorado. And he developed this widget about 30 years ago, and the widget turned out to be S-5. It was a standing seam clamp for roofing that he was attaching snow attachments to, and now it holds everything. But yeah, he used to ride rodeos and the whole ball of wax.
Oh yeah. So you've got horses too, right, out there, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I mentioned before coming to work for S-5, Judy and I had moved here. We relocated. We brought 3 of our kids with us. We brought 3 horses with us and 3 dogs. So we did everything in threes at that point in time. Judy, my wife, she's out riding her horses probably 5 days a week now at one of the 8 different open spaces that we have here around the area, or simply goes out on the gravel roads. I myself my passion is cycling. So I spend a lot of time, or most of my free time, cycling in the summers, either mountain bike or out on a gravel bike. And then in the winters, heading up in my Volkswagen Vanagon, my 1982 Volkswagen Vanagon, to go skiing on the weekends.
Yeah, yeah. And you got to get up early, because if you don't get up early, you're going to sit in all the traffic coming up I-70 to, what mountains, where do you ski most?
Yeah, Monarch, go over to Wolf Creek every once in a while, Copper, Snow Basin. If I get really crazy, we'll go over to Crested Butte. But you're right. Yeah, you got it. We leave typically in the Volkswagen Vanagon. We head up on like a Friday night. We'll spend 2 nights in it, Friday night and Saturday night, and ski all day Saturday and Sunday. So not a bad lifestyle. Colorado's a great, oh, sorry, don't tell anybody, but it's a great place to live.
Hey, when I was at DU in the 80s, I used to have a Ski America card, and it was $1 to ski Arapahoe Basin, Winter Park, Mary Jane, Loveland Pass. I could get up there 45 minutes, and I skied every mountain in Colorado. I even skied the glacier, St. Mary's Glacier. And that was a fraternity gig. Everybody had to go up there in the summer and do your time up on the mountain, on the glacier. But the steepest place, I think, in Colorado to ski is Telluride. And but my favorite mountain, when I was growing up in New York, my parents used to take me out for about a month, and I get tutored. My sister and I, we would ski and get tutored. Anyway, I learned to ski on buttermilk, and in Aspen, and we did that for a while. But my favorite mountain is the Aspen Highlands. I just think that mountain is killer, and it still has old school. They've upgraded the chairlifts and stuff, but there's a run called Thunderball at the end of the day. You come down and you come right down into right where the tickets in the parking lot's right there. But the Aspen Highlands, that's one of my favorite mountains to ski. Nothing like the back bowls of Vail when it's waist deep, but the Aspen Highlands, very cool place. If you haven't been there, check it out. It's a really.
I have not. I'm feeling behind the curve.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
well, in Aspen, you got Ajax, you got Snowmass, you got Buttermilk, and then you have the Aspen Highlands. They're all kind of cornered there in the valley. When you go to Aspen after you get through Grand Junction. No, listen, I skied everywhere. But my parents had a place in Vail, so obviously I was a Vailite. My uncle went out to Vail in like 1965 or 66 when his kids were young, and he was a contractor, and he built just about all of Vail. And so he even built our house that we had there for 30 years and in West Vail. But I've seen so much stuff. I watched Beaver Creek get built. Actually, they moved out before they even had the Eisenhower Tunnel on I-70. So you'd have to go Loveland Pass, I-6, and go over that's how we got, to the mountain, because there weren't really that many flights, back in the day. So I can remember going up, the road at the top and then coming down the pass in I-70 and into the valley in Denver. It's you look back, it feels like yesterday I was doing that stuff, and so
yeah, this year was tough. So I can't even imagine without the Eisenhower Tower or Eisenhower Tunnel. This was the year of snow, and that road I-70 was closed down consistently. I ultimately ended up just going up the backside through Woodland Park and out through Buena Vista and up to the up through Breckenridge that way, because there's hardly anybody takes that back road.
Well, here's the thing. Like we I used to go up on a Friday night, so I would go actually at DU. Okay, this is the way the DU works. Like I was a lacrosse hockey player, so but everybody during the winter quarter, they were on a quarter system. For the winter quarter, everybody would take school classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So you could ski Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So if you wanted to get on a Tuesday or Thursday class at University of Denver, you had to get up early just to get into those classes so you could run, because no one was around on Friday, man. They were all up on the mountain, it's being a ski bum. And I was on the 5-year plan. So I did my 1 year on the mountain and worked at I was a bar back in one of the hotels and worked on the mountain. And, if you didn't do that, you weren't really a real Coloradoan. But it was some good times, back in the day. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And, you get spoiled, after you leave. But then when you come back, but I remember if you went up early, you didn't have to get up at 4 a.m. But these days with the Denver drive ups, you got to get up early if you're going up on Saturday morning to ski, because ski lift tickets, I don't even know what they are these days, but they're not. It's like playing golf.
It's definitely not inexpensive, and the only way to do it is to make your choice and either pick the Epic Pass or the Icon Pass. And choose those mountains. So we're on this kind of rotating scale. Last year was Icon. This year it's going to be Epic.
Yeah. No, listen, like I said, shoot, I was over that pass in some wicked snowstorms, and for them to close the pass or the road, I-70, it's got to be a lot of snow, because they know what they're doing, to keep the roads clear and stuff. So, but a bunch of my buds, we still have family and stuff that's in Vail, and they said they had a great season. It's they close it, third week in April because the White River National Forest, they want all the animals to migrate back, for the summer. And but it was a pretty good snowfall. So, Denver will have some water this summer,
It continues to rain. It's been the last 2 weeks have been rain every afternoon. We're getting about a half an inch. So thank goodness. We need it. The pastures are looking great. The horses are happy. They're running around eating all this sweet grass.
So let's talk about the roller coaster. So you're sitting back, 2020, end of Q1, going into Q2. Bam, the 2x4 hits everybody, right in the face, and you kind of go through it, and no one knew what was going to happen. And now you look back 3 years later, the country's opened up. A lot of companies figured out, how to, weather the storm per se. And I think a lot of people learned a lot about their businesses, about their personal life, that there's more to life than just work. And the companies that are still standing today were the ones that were smart about, kind of figuring out, technology and all that stuff. So talk about some of the things that you saw that, our listeners on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk might find of interest.
Yeah, so I think I might have, I mentioned to you, I started working from a home office in 1990, 91. So my perspective is a little skewed only because it's like every 5 years, I kept waiting for my style of work to come into vogue, so to speak, because I always felt like I was really productive working from a home office. And then the roller coaster hits. And it was like one of those Star Wars moments where you're going to warp speed and you're flashing through, a time warp, so to speak. And everybody is adopting everything that I had been doing for quite some time. And it was like, this is great. The challenges, of course, that everybody knows about. Nobody wanted to come into the office. No, you couldn't get together. But I think in our industry, at least option of some of these technology tools, like what we're doing right now on a Zoom meeting. And I think about through it, everybody started to kind of assume that was the way things were going to have to stay for a while. You're just going to have to do Zoom meetings. Yeah, so kind of an anecdotal story. There's a large retailer on the East Coast that I'd been working with. The gentleman that I was working directly with was known as a pretty hard charger, tough guy. And I'll never forget, during one of our meetings, he was taking the call from home. He's sitting in a recliner, and his little tiny Bichon poodle jumps up in his lap, and he's sitting there stroking. And it's like, holy smokes, the whole environment for the world has changed right there and right then.
Oh yeah.
But I think there was also some epiphanies where people really started to engage more directly with individuals and build better relationships because you had to. It wasn't just transactional. It was like, I really need to get involved with a vendor, or I want to be involved with a customer that's a partnership. And in order to get there, you have conversations like you and I are having. It was more realistic. It was more human. So yeah, I think things have changed. The biggest struggle coming out for us at this point is getting people to come back to an office. And we see a lot of productivity with people working remotely. The biggest challenge we face are new employees or younger workers that are just coming out of school, because they're really missing out on that opportunity to be mentored or to be coached and to get through kind of that learning curve in an office environment.
With the biggest thing that when people were thinking about, oh my God, I'm like, can I trust my employees to get up out of bed in the morning? Are they going to be able to work at home? Like you, I've been at home for years. I had a digital magazine for years. I was lucky. I didn't even know how much content I had until all this stuff happened. I mean, it just changed everything. Just like contracts, you had to have a a lot, my attorney was like, hey, if you're going to do an event, you need to have an act of God clause in there, in case something happens like this again, and fighting with the hotels, trying to put that stuff in. And a lot of companies were just trying to figure out, how am I going to keep my company culture, and getting the technology at their house, getting people set up. And then after it kind of opened up, now the quandrum is, okay, how do I get my people to come back to the office? Like, I was just up in New York. Monday and Fridays, people aren't in New York City. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's when they're in. It's hybrid. And that, they want to go to concerts, they want to go to ball games, they want to do this, they want to, but they don't want to go back to the office. Yeah. So what do you do as an owner? You don't want to tick off your people because they've proven themselves. But then again, you would like them to come back. And like you said, the new people, you'd like them to have that camaraderie with the older generation, with the new, the rookies coming in and getting that. There's nothing like in person. You just can't replace that stuff. But technology can still get you, time, but you can't replace that. And the biggest thing was company culture. How do I save that? And then right now, in the US, I just saw a report that, corporate real estate's at 49% occupancy, and it goes down every day. So if you're in corporate real estate, I feel for you, because, you've got you've got to figure out, how do I get how do I get my people to come back to the office, or the businesses are there, or they're not going to re-sign their leases. And then what do I do with that space? But from our standpoint, it's just like a retail store. Every 3 to 5 years, it gets refreshed. So all those buildings, when I was in Denver, the oil boom had hit in the early 80s. And wow. All these new buildings in downtown Denver, and they were all empty, because the oil boom had hit. Now I go there, you can't even find a place an office in Denver. It's unbelievably expensive, and everything's full. And but this whole I don't know what the word is, because I know all these businesses are trying to figure out, how do I get these people to come back? What, do I want to do a hybrid? Do I want to do this? Do I want to? And I know a lot of business owners are like, hey, I want everybody to come back. And it's tough, because some people have just found out that, hey, man, I like working from home. I don't have to burn gas. I don't have to sit in rush hour. I don't have to do any of those things. And I've been working on my house forever. I just couldn't imagine going back to an office at this point. Or I'm an entrepreneur. I've been working for myself here. I could go back and work for someone else. But for a lot of people out there, that, like I said, they've proven themselves. And, so many people have said they had the best years the last couple of years, from a productivity and revenue point. They could actually have made more money if they could have found more labor, or project managers or superintendents, for these jobs. And, that's the biggest hindrance. Or they could have made more money. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's, this technology thing. And now everybody's talking AI. That's all anybody wants to talk about. You listen to CNBC in the morning, and if you say AI 5 times on your conference call, your stock goes up 10%. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a step back. When this roller coaster first hit, and you were actually mandated to send people home to work, we had at that time probably 40 project managers. And we sent them home. We sent them home with a laptop and a couple of big screens. And what was interesting to me was certain people just could not adjust. We had pretty good metrics in place. We could measure what their productivity was. And out of those 40, we probably lost 9 or 10 people, because they couldn't figure out. They could figure out how to get out of bed in the morning, but they couldn't figure out how to go sit on the laptop and get any work done. And that's not going to work for us.
Some people have to be in an office, and some people can work at home. You just don't know if you've never done it. And
but the other 30 were amazing, because some of them were commuting in, and they were still getting up at the same time in the morning. They were still basically checking out of work at the same time they normally would, and they were doing more. So their productivity improved so much that we didn't even have to rehire to backfill those 9 or 10 slots that we lost during that turmoil period. Really, I'm really curious to see what AI can really do. Our group here is talking about it all the time with website coding. I was just listening to a conversation coming in here where we were struggling with a particular aspect of our website, a calculator that we use to help people determine how many solar panels and how many clamps they need. They went on to Chat GPT or OpenAI, asked a question and found a solution that might have taken days and only took hours.
Yeah. No, I have a recording. I had a recording today. The gentleman, he was out in San Fran, and he was going to do a demo on how to use ChatGPT in construction. And he was going to do a little 10-minute demo. He's going to ask some questions, and I was going to share the screen and let him go through. We'll do that one next week. But AI, listen, AI is going to change everything. You're not going to recognize construction in the next 5 years. It's at warp speed right now. And I've taken a 12-week boot camp last August. I did a 12-week boot camp. I learned about funnels and all this digital marketing. I thought I knew a lot. I didn't. But now I'm certified as a digital marketer. And now I'm in an AI class for 10 weeks. I think it's my 7th week. Maybe it's my 8th week this week. I forget. But I've learned ChatGPT, Mind Journey. I'm learning how to clip reels. I'm doing all this stuff, and it's mind blowing. If you haven't seen ChatGPT, it's just, you can do it in a second. You can have your information because it just puts its tentacles out there, boom, and then as you work with it, it becomes more smarter. Here's the thing what I'm going to do with ChatGPT. I'm kind of letting my secrets out here, but you'll start to see stuff that's on my magazine site. So if you want to read my publisher's column, I'm learning how. Actually, last week I learned how to clone my voice, and so I'm going to clone my voice, and you're going to be able to read my publisher's column, or you can hit a button, you can listen to me read it to you, or if we always have a Q&A on our covers. So I'm going to clone my editor's voice, and we're going to clone the feature person's voice, and you can either, once again, you can just read the magazine, or you can click it and listen to them. And so this is, because the magazine's digital, it's still kind of, I got them all moving, but it's not going to be static now. And
so is this really you right now, or is this an avatar?
No, this is really me. This is really me. So, but and what's crazy is the guy that that's teaching me, he's a young guy, 28, high school dropout, he's written 3 books, millions of hours, he's a digital marketer. Anyway, he said, after 10 weeks, everything you've learned is going to be outdated because technology is moving so quick. You'll just know what the foundation is and how things work, but you're going to have to learn new tools because there'll be new stuff coming out.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, it's been an eye opener. And I was kind of anti-AI because I was thinking about, well, it's going to change things or whatever. It might displace, laborers. But if it's done the right way, I think, I look at AI as the genie's out of the tube. You're not going to put it back. It's not. So we might as well learn how to use it in the right way and not let it get ahead of itself. And if it's used correctly, it can just shorten everything, and just like Zoom here, we're talking, it's a 3.5-hour flight out to Denver from Atlanta, 3 hours, depending on which way you're going. But, we're doing our gig, and you can pick and choose where you want to do your in-person stuff. Just like if you were in Sea Springs and you have a call in downtown Denver and you're just looking at a thing, you could make that ride, but you can do it on Zoom. But if you had to go to Grand Junction, well, maybe you might not make that ride because it's beautiful, number one. But number two, these are the kind of things where you can kind of make your decision, because this makes your life so much easier.
Absolutely. There's still a lot of need for in-person, and to build those relationships. I think it's still a bit of a requirement. I'll tell you what, my biggest concern, and AI is great. What I hope it does is it frees a whole bunch of people that are doing office related jobs so they can go out and get retrained on how to do construction related work.
Yeah. We need those laborers,
because finding labor, skilled labor that can get up on a roof and do work, or an electrician, is becoming increasingly the most challenging thing that we are facing.
Yep. Listen, my son went to FAA mechanic school 2 years. He's got his A&P license. He's been at Boeing now for, he'll be there a year and a half, coming up on 2 years in a couple of months. And he learned welding, avionics, sheet metal, woodworking. All that stuff. And, now he can work on a jet engine, anything, whether it's in a train or a boiler in a hospital, or a jet in a, Lockheed Martin F-16. But or, or Boeing, whatever they're making. So it, labor, I told him that he should become a plumber when he was thinking about trade schools. Cause I said, look, everybody's got to use water. You got to cook with it. You got to drink it. You got to shower, but we'll find some guy that doesn't have any siblings or children to give it to. We'll go and you become an apprentice. You'll learn all this stuff. And then, we'll take his business over. And he was going to do motorcycle. I said, look, you got to do it in someplace warm if you want to ride all year. Then he was going to do automotive. I said, if you don't have your own shop, you're not going to make the big bucks. Then we took the tour of the 𝐵𝐒 facility, and they have 20 schools around the country, and it was beautiful. And I said, 2-year program, and then it takes about a year to get your licensing done. But all his friends went to 4-year schools, and some of them are still out there, trying to find their way. And but we had those discussions, and I'm all about the trades. We got to bring the trade schools back. Yep. I'll go if I'm ever offered the opportunity to go in, to do, what's my job day, in an 8th or 9th grade, or even a, 6th grade class. I'd go in there. Hey, I'm a publisher, but I'm a construction, but here are all these things that you could do. So as you go through school, you should think about this, because not college isn't for everybody. And,
yeah, I'm completely with you. There's an organization that I try and support called Bring Back the Trades. We got a couple people here, one gal specifically that's got a group for young girls called Building Women. And it's all about teaching these young girls how to do trades, making them feel more secure that, hey, even if you have to hire somebody out, you can at least supervise them, and they can't buffalo you into saying that something is wrong that really isn't.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to go back to when I was growing up in West Covina. Of middle school had a wood shop,
mm-hmm.
and a shop class. In high school, we had an auto shop and a metal shop. And, it's just, I think there's a certain, I don't know, building things, you get to look at what you put together. There's a huge amount of accomplishment, a sense of accomplishment when you can do that. And I can tell you from the sign company, running a sign company installer business, that's tough. We're trying to hire new people is like trying to find unicorns.
Yeah, but what the coolest thing about construction is that if you work on a project, whether it's putting up a kiosk, or it could be a mega project that takes 2 or 3 years to build, you can drive by and say, "Hey, I built that."
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
this. Like I'm a constructor. I used to construct this magazine every month. And paper, ink, editorial. But now it's digital, so I'm using digital materials. But I'm still a constructor. So every time when I look at the magazine, and now I look at digitally, I'm like, wow, I built that. But then I go over and do it again. But I think that's the coolest thing about construction, is that if you have kids or whatever, you can say, hey, I worked on that.
Yep.
or I built that, or that sign. You see that? How many days we had to get that light blue, so it would look just perfect at sunset.
Exactly.
And, because it's branding, it's electrical, it's architectural, it's all those things. And I think you're in the sign industry. I think signage is one of the toughest industries to be in, because every day they're calling your clients, to build more signs. And listen, retail is very competitive. So, and as an end user, you can only pick so many vendors to work with, to put in your stable, talking about horses. So,
Yeah.
So, if there was, one thought or positive phrase that you'd want to leave with our audience out there, what would it be, do you think? Or some lessons learned, over the last 3 years, what would that thought be that you'd want to leave with before you give your contact info out?
There's 2 things that I guess I'm going to go back to what I taught my kids. There's just 2 kind of underlying themes. One, be the hardest worker in the room. Do the best you can. People notice that. They see it. The hardest worker in the room, you don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the most skilled. But if you're the hardest worker in the room, somebody's going to give you an opportunity, because they're going to trust that you're going to give it your all. And then the other component to that is, it's called networking, but for me, it's collaboration. It's work shoulder to shoulder with others. Bring somebody else along. Sometimes you got to be in the rear pushing, sometimes you got to be in the front pulling, but working with others in close collaboration will get you further than you can get on your own. That's what I'm going to go back to the CCRP events that you were hosting. Those were great. Well, I love those events because you could meet your peer group, not competitors, but somebody else in an aligned sort of vendor role. And working more closely with them, I got more done through the efforts of others and referrals than I ever got done simply by working on my own as a, a lone wolf, so to speak. But that would be it.
Hey, listen, I'm right there with you as far as be the hardest worker. I told my son, I said, look, when when he worked at the garage, local garage, I said, look, you're going to work for Mr. Jeff. All right. So if he tells you to go clean the bathroom, do the best bathroom clean you can. If he asks you to clean the trash cans, do the best thing you can. It doesn't matter what it is. You're going to be a grunt starting out, and they're gonna prankster you because it's a garage. It's just the way it works. You're a car guy. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whether they splurt you with oil or whatever it might be, you're going to get prankstered. But do the best that you can. So, I always tell my son, 20 years from now, I'm telling you this, but you think it's BS. But, I had him on my podcast about a couple months back. And you know what he said to me on the podcast? He goes, hey, Dad, if you weren't as hard on me, I would have probably never gotten that job at Boeing. About better early than late, finish what you start, do your best whatever you can, don't slack. And he said, you were right, because I beat out a lot of people to get the flight operations specialist, on the tarmac in Charleston. And he beat out all these people that had tenure. Here he's only 23, but they picked him because he works hard, he gets there, everything, and just do what they tell you, because they'll know down the road, hey, Brody Corson, man, that guy gets it done, and so that was really cool. But I thought I was going to hear that when I was like 70 or 80, and here he told me right on a podcast. But I'm right there with you. I'm with I kind of like, hey, listen, you got to learn how to, you're a horse guy. So if you get bucked off your horse, what's the first thing that you do? You
get back on, baby.
You brush yourself off and you get back on that horse, okay? Because if you don't, you're not going to make it, And I grew up with horses, so we had stables, and I went to hockey school up in Canada every summer, and it was called a hockey ranch. 4 hours of horseback and four hours of hockey, and you worked on the ranch. It was in Pickering, Ontario, which was a little podunk town back outside of Toronto, and by Mississauga. But I don't even know if it's still there. I grabbed the Hockey Digest. I told my parents, hey, this is where I want to go. But we had horses, and and so, but that's my thing. If you get bucked off, because business is rough, you got to brush yourself off, and you got to get back on that thing right immediately. And so that I'm right there with you 100% with that thought process. And as far as the labor goes, listen, we need as much help as that we can get out there, and whether it's male, female, or whatever you want to call yourself that day. I'm not going to prejudge anybody. You want to wear hair extensions, be a welder, just make sure you don't catch yourself on fire. So whatever you want to do. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, and bounce them, maybe they're looking for snow retention stuff, or, bounce some roofing questions off you, how would they reach out to you, Dan?
Yeah, so LinkedIn's a great way of doing it. So it's Dan Belling. Email address here at S5 is dbelling, and that's BELLING at s-5.com.
Awesome.
Of course, I'll always answer my cell phone. You can call 24/7, because if I don't want to answer it, I just turn the damn thing off.
Yeah.
And that number is 949-922-0503.
And if someone wants to reach out, now listen, if you got a project and you've never done snow retention, and you're branching out to, an area of the country where they have snow and so forth, you got to have these things, because last thing you want to have is something fall on the roof and, have a lawsuit that you could have nipped in the butt. And these things will pay for themselves just from their own safety that they offer. But also, it also allows you to have all these other, equipment that you can have up on the roof, like solar panels and other things that, you're going to need attachments to do that. And that's what S5 specialty is, as they've grown the company over all the years. If someone wants to get in touch with me, you can get me at David C, like cat, David C at CCR hyphen or a small dash, and then mag.com, David C at CCR-mag.com. I always know you don't like when I say this, but it's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. If you don't send me something, Like Dan, he said, I saw something on LinkedIn. I said, hey, this is how he got on here today. I reached out to him and said, hey, man, I want to put you on here, man. We've known each other forever. But semi stuff, we look at everything. We had 3.5 million people hit the site last month. I don't know what it's going to be this month, but we had about 29 million people hit the site last year. It's just crazy. So send us content. It could be a charity event. It could be a project profile. It could be a new personnel announcement. We look at everything. And I'll come back to you. If I post it, I'll find a place. I'll send you the link. You can share it. It's win-win. And, and I will come back to you. It just takes me time to get through, all the emails and stuff. What's crazy is I get through my email, and all of a sudden when I go to bed, the other side of the world's waking up in Australia, China, or Singapore. And I'm starting to get these emails from people. Hey, will you post this? And I'm like, it's a 24-hour gig. My wife's like, hey, are you coming to bed? I'm like, I'm posting, And so send us something and we will look at it. So Mr. Belling. Okay. S-5, congratulations. It called me. I was like, oh, S-5, I'm going to call. I just sent him a little, hey, you at S-5? Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with that company. And so when I come out to Denver, I want to go horseback riding, and it can be English or Western. I do both.
Western, baby. Only
yeah,
Western.
no, I know the English. I had to throw that in there, posting and all that stuff. But would love to get back out on a horse and, see the mountains and check out the Cherry Creek Reservoir and, all that good stuff. So, everybody out there, listen, you got summer coming up, and we're coming into Q3 and Q4 for 2023. And before you know, it's going to be Christmas time, and, stores are going to have to get open by Thanksgiving. And it's just, it's amazing that's already almost June. Today's the 31st, tomorrow's June 1st. I am just blown away that 6 months has gone that quick in 2023. So, Dan, say goodbye from Colorado Springs to our listeners out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
David, thank you. I appreciate your time. Everybody, come visit, just don't stay.
And I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, just below the Beaufort Dam on Lake Lanier, about 25-30 miles north of downtown Atlanta. And Dan, I look forward to seeing you, in person and checking out the horses. And good luck being a grandpa. And I'm sure you're going to do great. And everybody out there, listen, if you're on a construction site, make sure you stay safe, because we want you coming home at night, and the heat's coming. So make sure you stay hydrated. And hey, give us a like on on this video, so we can get the thing moving out there. We want to keep all the algorithms at YouTube rolling. So we appreciate those like buttons. Hit that like. So with that said, everybody, enjoy the rest of the week. It's almost the weekend, and summer's coming. And Dan, thank you so much for reaching out, and it was great talking to you. And listen, we've known each other a long time. It's cool having people that I've known for a long time and see their careers. And anybody reaches out to him, this man does it right. He'll treat you, like gold. All he wants is a chance to prove his worth, and he will, and then some. So
there you go, David. Thanks. I really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you out here at some point.
All right, man. We'll sign off, everybody. We'll see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.